A dental office in the United States opened its doors on the morning of June 10, 2026, and found that every computer running Windows 11 had locked itself behind a 48-digit recovery key. The patient records were in there, the appointment system was in there, the billing software was in there. Nobody had the key. Microsoft had shipped an update the night before. The computers were doing what Microsoft designed them to do. And there was no fix coming. That is where this story starts with a business that could not open. The update was called KB5094126. It shipped on June 9, 2026, as Microsoft's monthly Patch Tuesday release. On paper, it was the most important security update Microsoft had ever shipped. 208 vulnerabilities patched in a single release, 38 of those rated critical. At least one, a flaw in Microsoft Defender, already being exploited in the wild by the time the update arrived. A security researcher published a 7th unpatched Windows 0 day the same day the update shipped. The pressure on Microsoft to push this out was real. So they pushed it. Mandatory. No opt-out. If you were running Windows 11 24H2 or 25H2, the update would eventually install itself, even if you had paused Windows updates. Even if you had set updates to manual, it would find its way onto your machine. That is how Microsoft designed the system. Mandatory means mandatory. What Microsoft did not tell you on June 9th or June 10th, or for the following 5 weeks, was that the update was about to lock some of those machines shut forever. Here is what happened inside the hardware. KB5094126 pushed new Secure Boot certificates to Windows devices. Secure Boot is the system that checks whether the boot process has been tampered with before Windows loads. When the update changed the boot chain, it altered the measurements stored inside the device's Trusted Platform module. The security chip that Windows uses to verify the machine has not been compromised. BitLocker watches those measurements. When they changed, BitLocker did what it was built to do. It decided something had changed in the boot environment, treated the change as a potential integrity violation, and demanded the recovery key before it would unlock the drive. BitLocker working as designed. Except the thing that triggered it was a mandatory Microsoft update, not an attacker. On business machines configured with local accounts, machines deliberately set up without a Microsoft account attached, there was no automatic backup of the recovery key. The key had never been stored anywhere. On those machines, the BitLocker prompt was not an inconvenience. It was a wall. Microsoft's own support tool, when consulted by administrators locked out of their devices, acknowledged that there was no recovery path without a saved key, no workaround, no backdoor. The only resolution was a full operating system reinstall. The drive gets wiped. The data does not come back. No patch issued since June 9th has restored that data. No patch issued since June 9th could. The dental office, the accounting firm, the small business running local accounts because that is what their IT consultant set up 5 years ago, they lost what they lost. Permanently, that is what nobody fixed. That is what nobody can fix. If you found this channel because you are wondering whether your machine is at risk right now, stay with this. We will get to what to check and what to do. The affected hardware was not obscure. The most commonly reported models were enterprise machines from HP and Dell. HP EliteBook 840G10, HP ProBook 4 60G11, HP EliteBook 8 60G10, HP ZBook, Dell Precision Workstations. These are the machines running in law offices, medical practices, accounting firms, and corporate fleets across the United States and United Kingdom. The reason HP machines were hit hardest involves the EFI partition, the small reserved section of the hard drive where Windows stores its boot files. HP firmware recovery files eat into that partition space. When KB5094126 tried to write the new Secure Boot certificates, it ran out of room on older HP systems with a 100 megabyte EFI layout. The update failed partway through. Secure Boot then refused to load Windows from an incomplete boot chain, producing a blue screen with error code 0xC0430001, or dropping directly into the BitLocker recovery screen. Microsoft's public response in the first days after June 9th was silence on all of this. The one problem Microsoft formally acknowledged was the recycle bin bug. When a user tried to permanently delete a file after installing KB5094126, the confirmation dialog displayed an internal Windows identifier, something like $R4ABC12 instead of the file name. Cosmetic. Confusing, but cosmetic. Files were not deleted, not corrupted, not lost. Microsoft acknowledged this bug. Microsoft gave it a fixed timeline of July 14th. Microsoft put it on the Release Health dashboard. The recycle bin bug got the official treatment. The boot failures, the BitLocker lockouts, the permanent data loss? Not on the dashboard. Not acknowledged. Not tracked. Official silence on the most serious damage the update caused, while the cosmetic bug got a public fix date. Subscribe here if you want to keep hearing what Microsoft does not put on its dashboard. Meanwhile, a second category of damage was spreading through enterprise environments. The update had broken something called OLE automation. Object linking and embedding is a Microsoft technology that has existed since the early 1990s. It allows one application to control another. When an accounting platform needs to open a Word document, OLE is how it does that. When a dental software suite needs to pull up a patient record in Excel, OLE is the bridge. Microsoft built this system. Businesses built their workflows on top of it for 30 years. KB5094126 broke the bridge. After the update, any third-party application that used OLE to launch Word, Excel, PowerPoint, or Access failed silently. No error message. The button that opened the document simply stopped working. In some configurations, the Office application crashed entirely. The affected applications were not obscure. CC Engagement and Work Paper Manager, used by accounting firms to manage client work papers during filing season. Dentrix and Softint, the leading dental practice management platforms in the United States. Zotero, used by researchers and academics to manage citations inside Word documents. These are not niche tools. These are the workflows that keep professional offices running. Microsoft confirmed the OLE automation break on June 16th, 1 week after the update shipped. The confirmation came after Windows Latest published its findings, and Microsoft quietly updated its documentation. The accounting firm's staff could not open client work papers from inside their engagement system. The workaround Microsoft offered was to open Word manually and then navigate to the file from inside Word, bypassing the broken automation entirely. For businesses running automated document workflows, that workaround was not a solution. It was an acknowledgement that the automation was broken, and Microsoft had not fixed it. The OLE automation break was eventually addressed in the July 14th update. The recycle bin bug was eventually addressed in the July 14th update. That is 35 days after June 9th. 5 weeks during which businesses were either running broken workflows or rolling back the update and re-exposing their machines to 208 unpatched vulnerabilities, including the already exploited Microsoft Defender flaw. That is the trap Microsoft put its users in. Install the update and your workflows break, or your machine will not boot, or your drive gets locked. Do not install the update, and an attacker with knowledge of the Defender exploit can run code on your machine with no warning. There was no good option. Microsoft built the trap. Microsoft left users in it for 5 weeks, while officially acknowledging only that the recycle bin showed funny file names. Now consider what you would do if you managed a fleet of business laptops and found a significant share of them locked behind a recovery screen on the morning of June 10th. That is the reality administrators described in Microsoft's community forums. Some used Windows Server update services to block the rollout. Some scrambled to retrieve BitLocker recovery keys from Active Directory or Azure, the Microsoft cloud service where managed enterprise devices store keys automatically. In a well-managed enterprise, the keys were there. In the small business with local accounts and no Microsoft account attached, the keys were not there and the data was gone. This is what the phrase "nobody fixed it" means. Not that Microsoft never shipped a patch. It means that for the businesses and individuals who hit the worst case, the patch that eventually arrived in July did not help them at all. The data was already gone. The reinstall had already happened. The patient records were already lost. And then July arrived, and Microsoft did it again. The July 14th Patch Tuesday update, KB5101650, carried code from June's optional preview update, KB5095093. That preview update, released June 23rd, had introduced a new Windows USB-C Connection Manager interface. That interface conflicted with the Intel Innovation Platform Framework Processor Participant Driver, a system-level component that manages CPU power and thermals on Intel-based machines. On certain Dell devices, the conflict caused the processor driver to malfunction. Device Manager showed a yellow exclamation point next to the driver. The machines experienced unexpected shutdowns. Overheating, poor performance. Battery drain. The July 14th update was mandatory. It installed automatically. Dell reported the issue during testing, and Microsoft blocked the update on affected Dell hardware before it went fully wide. That decision, catching the problem before it reached millions of machines, was the right call. But the root cause was a change introduced in the June cycle. The June disaster had metastasized into the July cycle. Microsoft released an emergency out-of-band update, KB5121767, approximately July 20th, to patch the Dell overheating issue on Windows 11 25H2 and 24H2. 6 weeks after the original June update. Emergency patch. Issued because the regular patch introduced a new emergency. At the moment you are watching this, every Windows 11 machine that installed KB5094126 and has not applied the July 14th update or later is still carrying the original bugs. And every Dell machine that went through the full June to July chain and did not apply KB5121767 is still at risk of unexpected shutdowns. Here is what you should check right now. Open Settings. Go to Windows Update. Go to Update History. Look for KB5094126 in your installed updates. If it is there, also look for KB5101650. If you have the July 14th update installed, the recycle bin bug and the old automation break are resolved on your machine. If you only have the June update and nothing after it, you are still running the broken version. Check your applications. If you use accounting software, dental software, or any research tool that opens documents through a button inside the application rather than from File Explorer, test that workflow now. For the BitLocker question, open Settings. Go to Privacy and Security, then Device Encryption or BitLocker Drive Encryption. If encryption is on, verify your recovery key is backed up. If your device is not linked to a Microsoft account and not enrolled in an enterprise management system, your key may not be stored anywhere. Back it up manually to a USB drive or print it and store it somewhere that is not on the machine itself. This is something Microsoft should have made impossible to miss before shipping an update that altered boot chain measurements. They did not. There is a larger pattern here that this audience has been watching for years. Microsoft ships a mandatory update. The update breaks enterprise workflows and locks machines. Microsoft acknowledges the cosmetic problem while the serious damage goes untracked for weeks. A patch eventually arrives for the acknowledged issues. The damage that was already done is permanent. And then the next update cycle introduces a new problem rooted in the previous one. The June disaster was not the first time. The January 2026 update caused boot failures traced back to a failed December 2025 update that had left machines in an improper state. The pattern is not a coincidence. It is the output of shipping mandatory updates to a billion machines without the testing infrastructure to catch hardware-specific interactions before they reach production. Microsoft admitted in May 2026 at its Windows Hardware Engineering Conference that the Windows Update driver catalog had been accumulating outdated and abandoned drivers for years and announced the Driver Quality Initiative to clean it up. That admission is an acknowledgement that the problem is structural. The June disaster is one instance of a structural problem that Microsoft has been promising to fix for years. The dental office that lost access to its patient records on June 10th did not care about the Driver Quality Initiative. The accounting firm that could not open client work papers during the last weeks of a filing deadline did not care about the recycle bin fix timeline. The business owner who found a recovery key prompt at 8 in the morning and realized there was no key did not care that Microsoft eventually patched all automation on July 14th. They cared that Microsoft shipped a mandatory update, locked them out of their own machines, and spent 5 weeks telling the world the only confirmed problem was that the recycle bin showed a funny file name. That is the story that did not get fixed. The update that broke the machines was mandatory. The trust that was broken along with it was not in any patch. If you have been hit by this update, tell us in the comments what software broke first. The more specific you are, the more it helps others in the same situation. And if this is the first video you have seen from this channel, we cover what Microsoft does not put on its dashboard. Subscribe so you are not the last to find out.